on the rise of Hanukkah and the history of Hanukkah, and now we're doing a little bit of Q&A at the very end. So we'll see if anyone is able to come over from that live stream. Um, but yes, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I'll be happy to answer them. And we answer questions here in a friendly, neighborly manner because we are friendly neighborhood history. And if you want to be a friendly neighborhood historian, consider liking and subscribing. It's as easy as that. Yeah, now we're back. Let's see. So we finished our lecture on Hanukkah, and now let's see if people have questions about history or social sciences. Hello, Guy Han. I saw you on the other live stream. I didn't get to say hi to you, though, earlier because I was driving. So now we're not driving. Now we're back in our studio and ready to take all of your questions about history or social studies. And I'll be generous in the spirit of the holidays and spirit of Hanukkah and of giving and of the candle last, since the candle lasted for 8 nights. My live stream lecture will last for 10 more minutes than it was supposed to, so I'll answer questions for about 30 minutes or so. And yes, I do like this shirt and this tie. I think it's fitting for the Christmas season. So, and please follow us on social media. Follow us on Patreon and Substack to read my articles, and on TikTok, where I have content you won't see anywhere else. What is your favorite Bible story? It's easier to control Europe at a distance, plus we already had Gibraltar, Malta, Cyprus, and Hanover. We don't need the rest of the dump. Yeah, except that you didn't control Europe from the distance. What is your favorite Bible story? That's an interesting one. Probably the Moses and the Ten Commandments story is quite interesting. The way God communicates his covenantal laws to the people of Israel, and the parallels to how the Mesopotamians, like with the Hammurabi's Code, did it, is quite fascinating to me as a historian. When did the post-temple modern rabbinic Judaism really take off and develop into what it is today? The Council of Jamnia in the late 2nd century helped codify and develop what the Jewish biblical canon, but also what Jews would do now that there was no longer a temple available for them. But yeah, I'm not. So I really think that once you have the lack of land, once you have the inability to rebuild the temple, and once you have another diaspora, I think you have the need for Jews to develop into an international religion where they are practicing as a minority, and that leads to the need for the adjustment of religious practices. So I think once the Talmud gets in there, you really have the beginnings of rabbinic Judaism as we understand it today, and that's probably around the 4th or 5th century AD. You can explain why you love history. I don't mind you doing it. If I give you a gift, can you write on the Harlem Renaissance? Sure. We did go through. Britain single-handedly shut down almost any proposal within Europe from 1823 up until the 1890s, except for the Crimean War, where you had to fight the Russians to stop them, and you needed the French to help you win. And you couldn't stop all of the other problems in Europe. So there's my 6-7 gift. But anyways, so the Harlem Renaissance comes in the wake of African Americans moving from the South to the North, looking for economic and social opportunities, dealing with the Confederacy or the ex-Confederacy, which is obviously and is a hostile and unfriendly place for them. And they develop a literary scene and a cultural scene in various different northern cities like Detroit and Chicago. There are large African American neighborhoods in these areas to this day, not because African Americans lived there in perpetuity early in American history, but because of what's called the Great Migration, when they looked for economic opportunities at the beginning of the 20th century. After the end of the Great War, the United States economy was extremely strong during the 1920s, and this affected and helped African Americans who were looking for jobs in the North, and they went to places like informed neighborhoods, and Harlem is one of the most prosperous neighborhoods in the area. It's an area where there's a lot of jazz going on. There's a lot of writing and literary scenes. There's musicians. There's the development of jazz as an African American artwork, and Harlem is the epicenter of that, the mecca of that. And you have musical artists emerging like Duke Ellington and Louis Armstrong, who are going to have a particular influence in that. New Orleans is another place where you see a lot of the cultural development. You also have art. Writers in Harlem who become quite influential, writing poetry and things like that in the 1920s, and other writings that will impact the development of American literature and African American literature in particular. Langston Hughes is a great example of this, the famous Harlem Renaissance poet. But basically, it was a time for the development of black culture, artistic contributions, and musical contributions during the 1920s. We're talking about anything you would like. I'm answering questions about history and social sciences. And I just had one about the Harlem Renaissance. That's my entire argument in a nutshell. Well, your entire argument in a nutshell is a bad argument because the United States kept Great Britain from getting too friendly in South America. That's what the Monroe doctrine was about, and it worked. When I was a kid, me and my dad used to watch cowboy and western movies. It caused a huge interest in that time period. I got into Mexican history because of the connection. Well, thank you for sharing that. What exactly was Tolkien's involvement in the Great War? I've heard of it since he participated in the Somme. Was he firing a rifle? Yeah, he was in the trenches. I don't think he was injured, but he certainly turned against war and had a very negative view of it. And I don't blame him at all because of that. And that's why The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit is really an allegory for the evils of war, the lure of power, and and how it is better to reject power, violence, and greed in the face of when it is presented to you and offered to you, when it would be better for you to be honest and noble and humble. Let me see. What happened before the Big Bang? Don't know. Did they, though? I mean, most of South America preferred London first. I don't care what South America preferred. I'm talking about what the United States did. The British couldn't stop the French from going into Mexico. The United States did that. The British couldn't stop Napoleon III and all of his chaos on the continent. And the British, by the way, didn't do anything to stop ending slavery in the United States. The Americans had to do that on their own. The British were very close to recognizing the Confederacy as an independent country, which should have led to a disaster for the Americans. And the British didn't care, even though they had ended slavery before the Americans, as long as they got their sweet cotton from the cotton Confederates. So, yeah. And the Americans never stole colonies from the British the way the British stole colonies from other people. They simply said, do not keep colonizing these areas. Yeah. So you don't understand how the Monroe Doctrine works or what it actually says, or who actually wrote it, probably. Also, it didn't really work. Britain got the Falkland Islands in 1833, and America did. Yeah, America did not do anything about the Falkland Islands. Well, big whoop. Who was Langston Hughes? African-American poet of the Harlem Renaissance. And kind of envisions the hope and the dynamism of that movement and the desire for African Americans to develop their own cultural identity, but also experience the American dream. Read A Dream Deferred, his famous poem, to learn more about him. Why do people fight? People fight because they want things. And then that caused an interest in Islamic history as a whole, but then I got into Persian history specifically, and I was very lucky that my trail of curiosity brought me to my own culture and roots. Well, I'm so glad it did that for you in Persia. That's quite fascinating for us, and we have people from all over the world who are part of the Friendly Neighborhood historian circle. So where did the Monroe Doctrine work against Britain? The United States didn't allow Britain to colonize any more of South America. The question is, how much of South America would Britain have gotten in the power vacuum of the revolutions in the 1820s and 30s that kicked the Spanish out? The British really didn't get much out of that other than the Falkland Islands. So there you go. So the Americans prevented them from doing things. Why do people want things? Well, that's obvious. People just they want greed. They want things that they don't have. We got another 20 minutes of, hello, Jenna, good to see you. We got another 20 minutes of Q&A, so if you have anything you want to ask about history and social sciences, please do so. Drop it in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer it. Why we didn't want to colonize it? No, that's not true. The British wanted to colonize everything. You're just mad because your little pipsqueak colonies, the Americans, you couldn't keep those colonies. Then you couldn't win the war against Napoleon without stealing American ships and cargo. And then the Americans wouldn't let you colonize the rest of their hemisphere, so you got mad about it. I understand that you're mad. I understand that you're bitter about last night, Harry, but just let it go. It might be, if you look at it, the British government single-handedly stopped Europe going in there and taking it all again. No, it didn't. Absolutely not. It wasn't the British who helped Juarez overthrow Napoleon's puppets in Mexico. You are wrong about that. What has history taught you? People don't learn from history. It's taught me about the complexities of the human condition. It's taught me that we're all the same in different areas. We use different things like culture and religion to make excuses. I could go on and on about all of the integral philosophical things that history has taught me. We got British Honduras, and we got the Falkland Islands, and America did nothing, and the American slaves were giving you your cotton, and you did nothing to stop that. So, yeah, don't care, Harry. I really don't care. No, you didn't control most of South America's economies. That's absolute nonsense. Should we all smoke weed and hug each other? I mean, if that's what you want to do. So, Hughes was a good author in addition to being a poet. Yes, great writer. Then you got Richard Wright, Zora Neale Hurston. You have an entire movement of writers at that time. Let me see here. Well, when does history start for you? History starts, prehistory is historical, but history really starts as a technical science once people are living in cities and writing things down. What is the one important history lesson that you would like Americans to remember in current political climate? History is a pendulum. Things go back and forth. They do not stay the same, and things do change. What is the one? Let me see here. Is America the modern day Roman Empire, and are we living in the same history as Rome? No, I don't think America is exactly the same as Rome, but there are some rhyming problems between America's decline and the decline of the Romans. Definitely, other than that, when South American governments because Britain started selling all of its investments in World War I to fund its war. Yeah, except that didn't happen. Do you see a world where these imaginary lines fade away? No. People are too tribal. They seized American cargo because they were vehement on being neutral against the spat between them and the French. Yes. They also seized it because they needed it. And they stole sailors, too. So they ended up buying all the investments of the UK government to try and establish their economies because they were effectively dependent. Harry, I don't care. To quote the vice president, I don't care, Margaret. I really don't. Yes, the British had an impactful economy. Do I really need to, know that? Wow, Britain had impact on other parts of the world. That's just fascinating. I didn't know that. You're just telling me this now for the first time. Is it wrong if I believe nobody is the descendant of Rome? Italy isn't Rome. Russia isn't Romania. Isn't Spain and Portugal aren't? No, it's not wrong to think that at all. There are definitely impacts of the Roman Empire on those societies. But yeah, what is your age? Take a guess. Are people tribal innately or in the interest of the ruling class? People are innately tribal. Pareto principle. People will organize themselves by class everywhere in the world if they have to. Who do you think is responsible for the deaths of Edward V and his brother, Richard III? Debate between Harry and friendly history over British history. Yes, I'm friendly about it. I love the British, but I'm not. But I'm not smoking them up my nose and getting high off of them like Harry is. So, holy, eternal, omnipresent greetings. Thank you, and same to you. Explain the decline of the American empire when they are no doubt superior military power and have 800 military bases around the world. Where is the decline? I don't know. Maybe in the low birth rates, the overwhelming amount of debt, inflationary crises, spending and affordability crises, cultural decay, the lack of a cultural vision, political divisions, and polarization. I don't know. America is doing just great. It's disgraceful actions in the Middle East over the last 30 years. Are you accelerationist? I don't think so. What's your favorite historical era in the timeline? 19th century stuff. Love that stuff. Why do you think that? I think Richard was scheming. There is evidence that the figure of him as a hunchback from Shakespeare actually is probably true. I mean, there is something to say of his scheming ways and how he asserted power. The fact that he took power right after the princes died, never explained any of it, and then hoarded the power as much as he could, probably indicates that he had something to do with it. And he did put them in the tower to keep them safe. Do you think this is a century for China? It might be. Are you one of Charlie Kirk's disciples? I'm not a political channel, so no. I mean, people think I'm the next Charlie Kirk, or I carry the flame, or whatever. But I'm just talking about history and social sciences. I only talk about politics if people ask, and I'd rather they just donate, and I'd rather people donate than I'll give analysis about that. Were the nuclear bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki unnecessary? Would proper American invasion have killed more people, Japanese and American? The second one. Is the widening wealth gap inevitable under communism? Probably. Yeah, capitalism is inherently acquisitive of money. Is Britain still around? I don't know what you mean by that. Let me see. What did King Edward do? Which Edward? Let me see here. Let me see. Other questions about history and social sciences. If you like what I've talked about with the history of Hanukkah, or you've liked the questions that I've answered, we've got another 20 minutes or so to go in the Q&A. Please like and subscribe, become a friendly neighborhood historian. Edward III, well, that's the king of the Battle of Crécy, whose son Edward the Black Prince won major victories during the 100 Years' War, only interrupted by the Black Death. The English probably would have had a dominant influence over France, and world history would have been forever changed because there wouldn't have been any Joan of Arc or Charles VII to throw them back at that time had Edward lived. He was an extremely good ruler, great administrator, and an all-around good general and king. So yeah, who cares about the history of Hanukkah? Well, I care about all history, and the history of Hanukkah is given because it's a holiday that's being celebrated right around this time of year, literally right now. It gives us a huge look into the histories of different empires like the Romans, Greeks, and Persians, and it explains more of our understanding of the third largest monotheistic religion in the world. Is the AI revolution the next industrial revolution in the present times? Yes. And just like the industrial revolution expanded exponentially in the terms of technological development over the last 200 years, before compared to the 2,000 years before that. Technological development was exponentially higher in the last 200 years than it was in the previous 2,000 years before that. AI development in the last 30 years in the information and digital age is far outweighs what the Industrial Revolution's exponential development was in the last 200. So it's an exponentially quicker revolution. We're getting these exponentially quicker and quicker technological revolutions. The bounce in the last 200 was huge compared to the previous 2,000. The bounce in the last 30 is huge compared to the last 200. How do you see artificial intelligence in 5 years? I just hope it's not too realistic. I want to be able to know the difference. Was there a king author? Yes. What exactly is Marxism? Marxism is an economic and social belief. Oh, I blanked. I don't know why. Somebody called me. Marxism. Let's see. Am I back? Am I back yet? Okay. Marxism is basically an economic and social theory that believes that the means of production should be owned by all the workers, that revolution is necessary to over. Let me see. This isn't my connection. This is some idiot calling me. Anyways, my point is, Marxism is basically an economic and social theory that teaches that the underclasses need to overthrow the overclasses, that all private property should be abolished. Everything from land to what is produced to what is used to produce things needs to be owned by the workers. Democratization of labor needs to happen, and all classes need to be abolished, as well as most religious practices and things like that. And it basically has the idea of a mass redistribution of wealth and all things being owned by everyone else, and no one basically claiming any ownership over anything, and money basically being phased out. Yeah. Thanks, Gordos. I mean, somebody was supposed to guess my age and they never did. So that's a basic explanation of Marxism. Sorry for all the interruptions. What if England won the 100 Years' War, reformed the Angevin Empire, and subjugated France under the English crown? Would they still colonize and be the nightmare of Europe? No. And that's why I love learning about this stuff, because the things that change because of that. Because England loses all of its French colonies thanks to Charles VII, they, as an island nation, need to find a way to expand, gain resources, and protect themselves. And the way they do that is by the formation of their exploration class, and eventually their navy in the 16th and 17th centuries. So those developments are part and parcel of the fact that England lost all of its influence and land on continental Europe. So, artificial general intelligence, not a huge amount. I'm not exactly familiar with the different parts of AI. Let me see here. Other questions. Did King Richard III have a sexual relationship with his niece? I don't know. Wouldn't be fully uncommon back then, believe it or not, but I don't know. Debt has gone up over every modern president, and culture clashes has always been there since the founding. If they are declining, who hypothetically will overtop them as number one? China. Let me see here. Trying to go through the chat, answer questions. 25. Thank you. You're being very nice. 24. What is that behind you depicting? This is a Hanukkah depiction, and I'll turn the camera around so you can see. You have the Greek army of Antiochus and the Syrians in the back with horses and phalanx and elephants marching, and you have the Jews in the front with their menorah ready to worship God. It's just an incredible mural, and I really, really like displaying it. So, good question. Communism has never been obtained. It's a naive perception of a sign. Marx was closer to a Satanist, according to his father. Maybe. Without foreign aid like American supplies, Britain might have faced starvation during World War II, World War III. Britain imported about 2/3 of its food. Don't tell Harry that. Because they didn't need the Americans. They could have just surrendered and let the Nazis kill millions of people. What is your opinion on King Henry VIII? An extremely capable ruler, a larger-than-life personality in every sense of the way, but a brutal, cold, unforgiving tyrant in many ways. So, I don't know what triple red is. What was the latest use of elephants in battle? Not sure. Oh, my cameras went out. Oh well. Guess my light source died. Anyways, so now you're on a camping trip with me, I guess. Communism doesn't seem to work economically, yet why is China doing so well? China is not economically communist. They are culturally communistic. How should society approach power of distribution and distribution of the means of production, considering human labor will be worthless, considering AI makes? I don't know. I don't know that AI will make everything. Automation and AI is inevitable to win. I think humans have a way of surviving. It's almost Malthusian to assume that you will run out of supplies and run out of jobs and run out of ways to make a living because of AI. I think humans are ingenious enough to survive. Just so y'all know, my mom's terrible. I know I'm not. Okay. Thoughts on verbal abuse, not tolerable. Like and subscribe and tell your mom to chill down with some friendly neighborhood history. You criticize Britain for needing help fighting the Nazis. It's not hypocritical at all. I mean, the United States wouldn't have needed help fighting the Nazis. You have an entire ocean. You have the American production military. You know that America would have stood a better chance against the Nazis than the British would have. And that's absolutely why Churchill was coming here and no one was going over there. Joseph Kennedy thought it would be a bad idea for the United States to join the war because he didn't think that it would have been he didn't think it would have been a good investment and the United States wouldn't have won. But you also think it wouldn't be a good idea for Britain to surrender, as you call it, and stop a dependency. Yes, Britain surrendering or making a peace deal with Hitler where they got to keep most of their land, but Hitler probably would have broken later because he was a SOB, a horrible person. Let's just assert that. Hitler was horrible. Yes, that would have been bad. That would have been very bad if the British had surrendered because millions of more people would have died, and you can guess the ethnicity of most of those people. And what would have happened when Hitler wanted England's Jews? What would Hitler have done to England's Jews? That's an interesting question. Why can't guns be bought in the state I'm in? I don't know. Are you in Australia? It's such a hypocritical viewpoint. Oh, well, whatever. Until people can get along with their neighbors across the street, then no form will work. AI will be modern day Moses in disguise. I don't know what you mean by that. Why do you think? Oh, Tanya, a member. By the way, that's why she has the. The emojis. So if you want an emoji, become a member. You get benefits, you get early access, you get all sorts of extra stuff. I will be doing a members only live during the Christmas season, so keep that in your minds. Who do you think was the most powerful, influential family in English British royalty? The Tudors. I'm glad you love your channel. I love having you here, Cherish. When do you give up whipping? What? It takes forever. I don't know. See your doctor for more. Let me see here. Billy Bishop for best pilot in the Great War. Good call. Australia is a country, not a state. Yeah, I'm joking, Manu. It is because those two viewpoints are completely compatible. Yes, Hitler totally would have kept killing Jews. When the founding fathers constructed the upgraded Constitution, if they weren't afraid of violent uprising from their constituents, they despised the working man when they'd gotten into power. I guess, I'm not really sure. Did Machiavelli ruin the world? No, he just reinterpreted it. This dude's lives are a breath of fresh air. Thank you, Tripical. I really appreciate that. And I'm going to get a breath of fresh air and turn on my lights again. So please like and subscribe. And favorite Matt Damon movie? Good Will Hunting. Duh. Okay, we're back, and that should fix my lighting issues. There you go. Why can't guns be bought in whatever state I am in? I think guns can be bought in almost any state, except certain states have more restrictions. Where am I at? Well, I was turning on my light again, but yeah. Should Americans arm themselves? I mean, the reason Americans arm themselves, the reason the Second Amendment exists is the recognition that the Americans would have never won the revolution against the British Empire, which desperately needed them and fought a war leading to the deaths of thousands of British soldiers, only to lose to the Americans, if they hadn't had the ability to arm themselves. So the question is a bit fantasy. What if a portal opened up in Warsaw, and the whole Polish army? I don't even know what I want to say about that. I think you just want the Poles to have a fighting chance in the war. If Field Marshal Pilsudski had still been alive, the Poles would have had a fighting chance against Hitler. That guy knew what he was doing, but he died 4 years before then. And by the way, Field Marshal Joseph Pilsudski has the greatest mustache in history. Look him up. He's the founding father of Poland. Do you think any previous civilizations existed prior to this human one? The Neanderthal man, Homo erectus, similar human-like creatures existed. Sure. Do you believe violent revolution is sometimes the only way to? No, but Marx did. Hello, Mr. Monkey. Let me see here. Thank you for the super chat. It's my pleasure, Tanya. It's always great to have you here. What university did you get your master's degree from? I don't share that. I don't get too much into my personal details, but I have a master's and a bachelor's in history. Why are the founding fathers put on a pedestal when they were just as authoritarian relating to the free press that went against their ideology? You're thinking about Adams and the Alien and Sedition Acts, and Adams was heavily criticized for doing that, which was seen by many as a betrayal of independence, the betrayal of the freedom of the press that he had supposedly fought for. The founding fathers were not against freedom of the press in any way, shape, or form other than that incident. Do you believe in a unipolar world or multipolar? I don't know what you mean by that. And thank you again, Tanya, for the super chat. Super chats help the channel out a lot. Really appreciate that. Watching all the videos and content on this channel and liking obviously helps us get the message across. It helps us get ad revenue. So please do that. My goal this year has been reached to get monetized, and we've reaped in the benefits of that. All of the money that you give to this channel goes back into the channel to upgrade equipment and technology and all the stuff that we use to make the Friendly Neighborhood History channel as good as it can be for you. We just got a new laptop, which we're going to be utilizing over the next couple of weeks, which I'm very excited for. I'm really, really good at prehistory and not history. I'm good at Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, old Neanderthal classifications. Were sapiens just better? They could be. I'm not really 100% sure. Thank you. And yes, love history. My sign off. We're the unfriendly history. I don't know. Trigger me and I'll get unfriendly. Can you tell us the country you got your degrees from? I'm from the United States. I don't share where I am from the United States, but people can guess. Go ahead and guess in the chat. I have a 1 in 50. Actually, with Puerto Rico, American Samoa, and Washington, D.C., you got a 1 in 53, 1 in 54 if you want to add Guam in there. How can I beat a bully with intelligence? Use some of my historical knowledge about military engagements to outflank him and defeat him. Russia and China believe in multipolar. Sure. Let me see here. Anyways, we've got about 5 minutes left. I'm going overtime as the oil burns in my lamp longer than expected in celebration of Hanukkah. We went over 2 hours yesterday. I will be live again on Tuesday for a special live stream lecture about the history of Christmas and from probably more Q&A. You sound like you're from Mid-Atlantic, East Coast area. Thank you. A lot of people say I have a European voice, and I hate the sound of my voice, by the way, on my recordings, which is weird because I'm a content creator. What you reading right now? I will finish it finally this week, Lucy Wooden's book on the Tudors, and then I've got Doris Kearns Goodwin's book to read on leadership. The black people are sub-Saharan, so how the heck black Africans or sub-Saharan African Americans have been in this country for more than 400 years, but thank you for proving you're a troll who doesn't know anything about history. Let me see. Thomas Jefferson didn't crack. I mean, I'm European ethnically. I'm not necessarily European. Thomas Jefferson didn't crack down on the free press. Not that I remember. Because the species grew up so quick. It's just sad we were contributing because to Neanderthals being extinct, we killed everything. Too powerful to believe we can nuke things in such time. Sounds like humans. Yeah, get some rest, easy. Enjoy your pills. But yes, I've been told I'm definitely ethnically European, but that people think that I'm from Europe because I have an accent. Do you listen to any podcasts? Plenty, all the time. Can the two-party system be changed? Not unless they splinter into like a quaternary of 4 different parties. Good evening, Hallie. Good to see you. Is the two-party system even useful anymore? It's useful in causing division. You have been reading that Tudor book for ages. I mean, don't read, so I don't blame you. That is a long time. Well, if you read it, maybe you would understand my perspectives a little bit better. So, I have been reading for ages because I've been busy with other things, and I find time here and there to read a few pages here and there. But yes, I have been reading for a long time. I think any non-humans existed before Neanderthals and such as a considered alien. Ancient humans had legends of these, like the Anunnaki, but I don't know. I don't think so. I would indicate no. I don't think in them. I don't believe in the monolith of Arthur C. Clarke. Thank you for haunting me. Can the Whigs make a comeback? No. So should have a 250,000 party system. Yeah, be like the Knesset or the German Reichstag. What do you think of Joe Rogan and Lex Friedman? Interesting guys. You don't have to agree with everything someone says to find someone interesting. I'm not going to cancel anyone. Audiobooks are great. Nobody going to remember Yuval in history? Maybe not. But what I'm talking about will be remembered. And that's why there's where I gain my worth. Was we Romans? We was Romans and stuff. Yeah. Can you tell us what podcast you listen to that you care to share about? Care to share about history? I listen to History Unplugged, the Russian History podcast. I forget the name of the guy who runs it. The American Presidents. There's several. History Unplugged is really good. Very, very neutral. I like that in a history podcast. If I'm listening to a political or social podcast, I'm going to hear all sorts of crazy opinions. But Dr. Thomas Sowell is a legend. He is quite interesting, to be sure. We should have a 300 million party system where each person has their own delegate. You mean like Poland in the 19th century? Didn't work. What do you think about the theory that Hitler escaped the bunker and was somewhere in Argentina? I think it's nonsense. Did lose my title? Huh? I don't know. Both sides of things. I try to see both sides of things. I try to be fair to all sides. I try to deliver history in a friendly, neighborly manner, and I think the friendliest way to deliver history is objectively, so I try to be objective. Let me see here. Would the Great War have happened if Queen Victoria was still alive? Yes, she would have been powerless to stop it. Ancient Sparta, their system of government was the best. Sure, leaving children who are undesirable out in the cold so that they can suffer and die is great. Explain progressives and women laureates' involvement in the eugenics era, and do you think some of their views are conducive to society? So, the progressive era of the late 19th, early 20th century in America and Europe advocated a lot of social change, government involvement, a broader franchise, the ability for women to vote, things like that were all part of the progressive movement. But another part of it that's a little more shady was influenced by paternalism and social Darwinism, the idea that what they believed were technologically and civilizationally superior countries had the right, and their ethnicities were better than other non-developed areas of the world, and that proved that their race had won, the survival of the fittest, as Herbert Spencer put it. But that doesn't mean that it was true. This justified racism, and because they believed that certain races and positions and groups were predisposed towards creating better civilizations in their minds, that it was better to reproduce and breed more of those people, and to cut off people who were not of those races. And the Nazis were influenced by this. Would you categorize Mao Zedong as I don't know, mass murderer is how I would categorize him? Were the Warren Commission conclusions credible? No. Do you know about Ray? No, I do not. I do not know about him, John. King Sobieski. Jan Sobieski kept the Muslims out of Venice. Yes, the victory was on September 11th, 1683, which is why September 11th became such an important date for radical Muslims. I personally love studying late medieval and Renaissance European history. What's your favorite time period and region? Russia and Europe in the 19th century and 20th century. Let me see here. We should just go back to ancient Sparta. Oh, yeah. No, I mean the actual structure of the government, not necessarily their morals and social beliefs. Their governmental system is similar to the American one. You have a strong ruling class, kind of like your senators, and you have executives who carry out power. Have you ever twerked? No. Since people of the West celebrate holidays that have pagan origins, does that mean that people are cultural pagans? No. The holidays don't have any paganic connections, really. Everything, and that's why Christmas, in many of its practices today, is not even a religious holiday, because it's been so secularized and defanged in the modern commercial American sense. What was Hitler's idea when he split troops instead of going for Moscow? He wanted to decimate as much of the Soviet Union as possible. Moscow was farther away, and he felt that he could get the Russians to surrender with a blitzkrieg into Stalingrad and Leningrad. He didn't expect the Russians to withstand sieges for years, literally. Who's most likely responsible for the JFK assassination? I don't think it was Lee Harvey Oswald. I think it's very possible the CIA had something to do with it. Who did King Arthur fight? King Arthur probably didn't exist. If he did, he was based on an Anglo-Saxon king who fought against various different barbarian groups in the power vacuum that emerged when Rome left Britain in the early 5th century. Despite it being racist, you don't think some eugenics ideas are conducive to uplifting society as a whole to better living conditions? No. It's all about culture. It has nothing to do with race. Have you ever visited Russia? No. Golden Age of Islam is a bad name. I would say Golden Age of Islamic world, because Islam didn't cause it. In fact, I would argue it was despite Islam. The Muslim caliphates were perfectly happy to have a Golden Age of Renaissance learning, and intellectual and educational development. How many Cleopatras were there? There are many Cleopatras, but the one that matters is obviously the one we talk about from the 1st century, who I mentioned earlier on the lecture. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Anyways, race is a social construct. It could be. 2 king, 5 elected overseers, 28 old men, lifelong check on power, and the Citizens Assembly. See, that just sounds like the House of Representatives, the Senate, the judge, the Supreme Court, and the President and Vice President. So basically, you don't want the Spartan system, you want the American system. And with that, I will sign off. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us for this live stream lecture and for the Q&A that followed. Please like and subscribe on your way out. You can join us again on Tuesday and check out all of our short-form content daily and our long-form video dropping tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join us for the History of Christmas on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Really looking forward to delivering that to you in your Christmas stocking. Go light some Hanukkah candles, and remember the history of this. And Hars, if you could put the history of Hanukkah video, if you want to watch a video of mine where I talk about it in the chat, that would be really great. Hars, if you're still there. I hope everybody has a really, really great rest of their evening. Take care, and as always, I love history. Faraz, there's one more question. Now I'll give Hars enough time to put it in the chat. Why if someone celebrates Hanukkah, that becomes culturally Jewish, but celebrating Christmas doesn't make someone cultural Christian? Judaism is a much more exclusive, is a much smaller religion with a lot less access than Christmas has in the mainstream, is what I would say. But that's a really good question. All right. I don't know if Hars is still here, but oh well. Go check out my video on Hanukkah. You can just look it up, Friendly Neighborhood History Hanukkah video, and follow us on those other social medias. Take care, have a great night, and as always, love history. Bye-bye now.